Hey, World Entertainment, and 28 years later, the Bone Temple has arrived, and it's a bomb. It is bombing and bombing hard. Now, there is a story that we will have to include in this about a Netflix deal, which there are some people, and I saw a video from Mr. H yesterday where he is describing this deal as making this movie not a flop. That this, in fact, is not bombing because of this deal. Unfortunately, he did say people need to look into this if you want to call yourself a real commentator on this type of stuff. And the problem is, I did look into it, which we will be looking at, and it proves him very much wrong. So, let's dive into this anyway about Bone Temple bombing. So, Avatar Fire and Ash burned 28 years later the Bone Temple at the box office as James Cameron's fantasy trequel reclaimed its top spot after losing it to the zombie horror movie's previews on Thursday. And that's important. It only lost the top spot for a day. Despite the continuation of Danny Boyle and Alex Garland's dystopian saga gaining some incredible reviews ahead of its release, the film has underperformed against its original projections and now puts the fate of the next movie in doubt, even though apparently they're still making the next one. I think in doubt might be in doubt as putting it on the big screen. So January and February are always tricky months for new movie releases, and the Bone Temple's position among the low-key releases seemed to be strange considering the popularity of 28 years later last summer, which because that movie actually bombed as well. So despite impressive preview numbers, are you kidding me? The weekend will see the Bone Temple foundations being shaken with a 13 million weekend, or 15 million over the extended Martin Luther King Jr. Day holiday. This substantially short of the 20 million plus figure expected from the film's domestic weekend, and half the 30 million haul of 28 years later last June. The worldwide gross is expected to end at around 31.1 million, half the film's $63 million budget. Before we continue with that part, number one, saying it had an impressive preview number. You gotta be kidding me, because the previews number was 2.5 million. That's all. That's all it brought in, was 2.5 million on its preview night. That is not an impressive number, not by a long shot. And then come the Friday, that number was 5.6. Here's the thing you have to keep in mind. That 5.6, you have to add in that Thursday preview number of the 2.5 number. So to try and say it's an impressive opening and an impressive preview number, no, it's shockingly bad. Now, this will be a 4-day haul, but as of now, and remember, these numbers always go down because they're only estimates when it comes to the international part. But the domestic so far stands at a mere 13 million. The international numbers, which again will get adjusted down, are 16.2. So that'll probably drop to about 15, maybe a bit lower. So the worldwide box office as of this recording is 29.2 million, which will go down. But then of course, it's a long weekend apparently in the States, so they'll have to try and cope with getting more. Apparently it's a long weekend. I don't know whether Martin Luther King Day is a extended weekend or not. I don't know. But it's saying the Bone Temple sees Nia DaCosta taking over directorial duties from Danny Boyle, and Ralph Fiennes, Jack O'Connell and Alfre Williams reprised their roles from the previous movie. Also in the mix is the return of Cillian Murphy, whose role in the film is expected to be expanded if the concluding movie in the new trilogy is greenlit. Which people are, like, according to this, it's not greenlit, but everyone else is trying to claim that it is greenlit. But the Netflix part, that has to be brought up now, because again, this is where some people, including Mr. H, are saying the deal makes the movie not a flop, and in fact makes all of Sony's future movies bulletproof to flopping, that they can't bomb now. So Sony films to stream on Netflix worldwide a new deal. The pay one deal will roll out gradually, with Netflix having full global licensing rights to Sony titles by early 2029. So you're already starting to see things. Here's the thing. Apparently they're spending $7 billion to this deal for Sony's movies. That is where they think this covers all these movies from bombing. So when you actually read it, it says Sony Pictures Entertainment is further cementing its relationship with Netflix, entering into a first-of-its-kind global pay-one deal with the streamer, expanding on a years-long domestic partnership. Netflix and Sony today announced a multi-year global pay-one licensing deal that will see Sony feature films stream on Netflix worldwide following their full theatrical and home entertainment windows. This is an expansion of the 2021 deal in which Sony films hit the streaming service in the US following their theatrical and home entertainment releases. That deal, which was worth $2.5 billion, expires at the end of this year, with the new deal kicking in at the top of 2027 for the US. As for international territories, the global deal will roll out gradually, starting later this year as individual territory rights become available. Netflix, which already has rights to Sony titles in Germany and across Southeast Asia, will have full global licensing rights to Sony titles in early 2029. As part of this pack, Netflix will also license rights to select SPE feature film and television library titles. So, what you're hearing here is that no, they have not upfront spent $7 billion on the rights to stream these movies. So, right now, where 28 years later the Bone Temple is sitting, this whole deal does not affect that in the slightest. It does not give it more money. It does not mean Netflix or Sony are sitting there not caring that the movie's bombing because they've just made $7 billion. They have not made $7 billion. They don't have any of that money as of yet and won't until the deal starts kicking in by the end of next year. So keep that in mind. This deal does not come into effect until next year. As for the $7 billion, there's no real information on that in this, but I doubt it's an upfront payment of $7 billion. I would assume it's throughout the years. I would also assume that it's not an upfront cash offer. I would assume it's through licensing deals with them, through stock and stuff like that. So this deal does not affect 28 years later's box office. So the movie is a bomb and will continue to be a bomb. So unfortunately, as for Mr. H, who, he's not trying to shill for it. Like, keep that in mind. He's not trying to shill and try and hype up this movie because he likes it. He looked at this deal and clearly he thought this deal is immediate and that the $7 billion was immediately put in. But no, that's not the case. So, and not just that, but Netflix would have it in the deal, without a doubt, that they want quality. So this idea that Netflix or Sony will now make movies and won't give a shit about what they actually do on the big screen because they're just going to go to Netflix where they've already got the money, yeah, that's not going to happen, because Netflix would probably have it in there to say, we want quality, and if you're underperforming, especially if the deal is you get paid with each movie or something, would be, we're just not going to take these movies, so you're going to lose that money on those. So we'll have to wait and see what way that deal unfolds by the end of or middle or whatever of next year, so it does not affect these movies as of now. So yes, 28 years later, the Bone Temple is a bomb. So what do you guys think? Do let me know, and of course if you've seen the movie, let me know. I reviewed the first movie. I'm probably not going to review this one because, quite frankly, I just don't care, especially after that last movie was so terrible. I really just don't care. Even though a lot of the commentators are saying it's actually quite decent, I just don't care. But let me know if you guys have seen it, what you think, and Or would you still like to see the third movie? Let us know. And with that, I shall leave it there for this one. So do like, share, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Cheers. Catch you in the next one.